The Army Criminal Investigation Division, CID, set out to investigate more than 100,000 individuals who had earned money by helping to recruit through the Guard Recruiting Assistance Program called GRAP. It turned out that the investigation was the real fraud. Thousands of those who were investigated were titled by Army CID agents, which should have meant that they were only a subject of an investigation. However, recently, being titled also meant the Army reported the subject as arrested for serious crimes even when no arrest occurred. Army CID then reported this information to the National Crime Information Center. The arrests showed up in FBI background checks, which meant innocent people could not get a loan, a professional license, a security clearance, a firearms permit, a job, or a promotion.
This recording is my experience under CID investigation for my participation in GRAP in 2006 and 2007. Now, up front, these statements are my own and I do not represent the National Guard or the unit that I currently serve in. What I really hope is that my story brings awareness to the devastating impacts that this process has had on hundreds of soldiers and officers' careers, as well as the negative impacts to our mental and emotional fitness. Now, my process started in 2013 when CID was tasked to investigate my participation in GRAP, and it ended in November of 2022, so 9 years. In November of 2022, CID conducted a final review of my case and determined there was no evidence against me. I should not have been titled, and they removed my name and information from their system as well as the FBI's criminal system. The information that had been in those two systems for years was that I had been arrested and charged with fraud against the government. And I think it's important to note that neither of those things ever happened.
April of 2013, I was interviewed by CID Task Force Raptor regarding the GRAP program. I answered the questions to the best of my ability, best of my memory, and I moved on with my day. I had nothing to hide, didn't think much of it. I spent the following 8 months fighting for my career. I went through my chain of command, contacted JAG, filed an IG complaint. Nothing worked for me. Couldn't re-enlist. After 13 active years, I lost my career. I lost my identity. I had changed. I had to sell my home. I couldn't afford it any longer. My wife left and took my children. I wasted 13 years in the Army. I wasted the last 7 trying to piece my life back together. Today, which is 2,747 days after I was discharged, I received this letter from the Department of the Army. They reviewed my case. Based upon information available to CID and relevant files, there's insufficient basis on which to title or index you in law enforcement basis. So today, they've sent me a letter saying that they shouldn't have titled me. Ruined my career, destroyed my life for the most part. So now my question is, now what? Where do we go from here?
And got my general officer memorandum of reprimand, and they kind of told me that, hey, you need to plan all your finances, you need to make sure your family's okay, plan for the worst, you could be going to prison. Put a gun in my mouth, and luckily I didn't lock the door. My daughter came in and she kind of saved me from that.
I was found guilty of identity theft and wire fraud, which at the time I knew was an odd thing to say, because to be found guilty, that has to be done by a judiciary body, not an investigative body. Review the files that CID investigated me on or with. And interestingly enough, the people that they said had no knowledge of my involvement in the recruiting program were people that I actually lived with.
I was a subcontractor for DocuPack. I recruited 5 people who went on to serve in the Army in some capacity. As a result, I collected approximately $10,000. I was never arrested, charged, or convicted of any crime. Yet Army CID says I committed theft of government funds. As a result, I have had a promotion delayed for 18 months and continue to worry that future promotions will be withheld or delayed. I have hired an attorney and we have contacted witnesses who have provided sworn statements that contradict what CID wrote in their report.
From 2005 to 2009 as an S&P cadet, I worked diligently to recruit high caliber talent to our formations through the Guard Recruiting Assistance Program. At this time, I had no idea that the result of my efforts would ultimately result in one of the most detrimental experiences of my entire life. I contracted service members equally committed to defending our great nation, with no ulterior motivation or malintent. Since that time, the U.S. Army CID has assigned Task Force Raptor to falsely indict many of my peers and I as felons, citing our support to GREP as misconduct. Without any notification or due process, CID convicted me of a criminal offense which has immeasurably and unconstitutionally inhibited me both personally and professionally. I was never prosecuted by the state of Alabama or through UCMJ. However, as a result of CID's unjust actions, I have been denied promotion, lost nominative and key development opportunities critical to my career progression, and I am now at risk for discharge due to non-promotion. This does not include the emotional strain taken on my family and myself over the last 8 years. I am a proven combat veteran with multiple deployments and have demonstrated exemplary performance over a span of 17 years between Guard and active service. This is unacceptable conduct on behalf of CID, and we are demanding justice. Clear our names and focus organizational resources on true criminals.
This is a constitutional issue, a systemic issue, a rights violation issue.
We are asking for those responsible for this disaster to be held accountable. Simply put, we are asking for the core values that this organization stands for to be upheld.